Am I the asshole for writing my colleague up and making her lose her privacy? Obligatory warning. Using an alternate account to prevent identification. Some background. I, 24 male, am a system/network administrator for a local college. I got this position because rather than attending college/university I attended a vocational school and became certified in system and network administration. At my institution we have one main system administrator per department. We do this as the campus is quite large and has several buildings. I'm responsible for the humanities and languages department as they share classrooms and computer labs. The issue: with the return of students to the campus, the faculty has decided to host some themed weeks/months. Last month's theme was LGBT celebration/history and the faculty decided to decorate their offices for it. Due to religious reasons, I decided to not participate or decorate my office. This made it so that in the wing my office was the only one not decorated. When asked by my colleagues if I was going to decorate as well, I would simply respond that I would not be. This was good for all but one of my colleagues. She began to incessantly demand I join them. After the third instance of her trying, I got frustrated and pulled her into my office and said formally that I would not be participating and to stop trying to get me to join. This led to her becoming passive aggressive and rude towards me. This didn't bother me, however last week she began to send me email after email about LGBT people and how my religion is wrong. I believed that this crossed a line and her actions constituted as cyber harassment. After sending a formal written warning in regards to her emails, she still continued to harass me. It was then I filed a formal disciplinary notice. Disciplinary notices are taken quite seriously as it goes above the department head and goes straight to the headmaster and ours if it involves staff. In the notice, I wrote her up under the cyber harassment policy. As per the procedure, she lost the privacy of her work computer and email account as ours and headmaster now have to investigate her correspondences. I honestly feel bad for her as I always try to respect people's privacy, however in this case I feel that she has forced my hand. So Reddit, am I the asshole for writing up my colleague and making her lose her privacy? On to the comments. Welp, I hate to agree with the religious bigot, but not the asshole. Heartbreaking, the worst person you know just made a great point. Lol, okay, I laughed out loud. Agree completely with your take. I don't think they're bigoted for not wanting to participate. They just said they're not down to decorate their office in pride stuff because they're not gay and it makes them uncomfortable to do so. Not wanting to participate in something like this isn't bigoted. Hell, I'm being trans and I wouldn't want to participate. There's better and less cringe ways of recognizing the greatness of LGBTQ people than a performative diversity PR shoot for a college campus. I don't think it's bigoted to not participate. I do think it is bigoted to state you aren't participating for religious reasons, unless your religious reason is that pride is a sin. If it violates your personal belief system to demonstrate support for gay rights, your personal beliefs are bigoted. I think wanting to abstain from homosexuality means it's okay if you don't want to engage with pride culture. I think that's just as understandable as any other reason. There are also people who know fully well they are LGBTQ, but choose to live by a religious code or in a religious community that forbids it. Even if we disagree with their decision, it is not our decision to make ANX. They could be dealing with circumstances we don't understand. I know if I was deep in the closet I wouldn't want to celebrate LGBTQ pride either. Where's the thought for the people that live in the closet? As long as you respect my right to do as I please, as long as I'm not hurting anyone, it really doesn't matter if you decorate a room or not. He's also just doing what he's most comfortable with, and he's not hurting anybody by doing it. Not participating in a performative university pride event doesn't make for a homophobe. It just makes for someone that doesn't want to decorate their room for a pride event. I 100% agree that non-participation in this event does not make him an asshole or a homophobe. I think the colleague is an asshole for harassing him. I do, however, think it is bigoted to be morally, religiously, opposed to homosexuality. If he does not use this belief as a basis for poor/inequitable treatment of gay people, then it is theoretically possible his actions do not have negative impacts on gay people. If that's the case, I make no objections to his actions, but still think his beliefs are rooted in bigotry. Being opposed to being homosexual personally for religious reasons is not innately bigoted. You can choose to abstain from it yourself without being bigoted. Nothing OP says implies a disrespect for my people, or that he would discriminate against us. He even talked about us with all the correct and respectful terminology. No one is gonna assume a Muslim hates anybody that eats pork. You're also not going to expect a Muslim to decorate their office in pig and bacon themed decor to celebrate Pork Month. Part of normalizing homosexuality in our culture is normalizing neutral non-participation. People who aren't gay, but don't care that we are gay. Imagine you work with a guy named Jerry. Historically, people treat Jerry like garbage. Call him Scary Jerry, kick him in the shins as he walks by, say unkind things about his mother, spit in his morning coffee, mean exclusionary shit. This goes on for years to the extent where people don't even blink when these things happen to Jerry. It's normal office culture. Some even say he deserves this treatment, and if he wanted it to stop he would just stop being like he is. Eventually, some new people get hired, and they're a lot like Jerry, similar haircut or interests. For whatever reason they feel a kinship. They start to stop being a Dick to Jerry initiative. Eventually some people join their cause, and after a tremendous amount of effort raising awareness, the abuse of Jerry had decreased significantly. One day, a floor of the office decides to hang up pro-Jerry posters in an effort to show support to their historically marginalized coworker. Every person on this floor puts up the pro-Jerry signage except for one person. They claim they just hate decorating, and while they never overtly bullied Jerry before, they do belong to one of the office groups that had historically done the most bullying. Now, it's not proof of anything, but it would be disingenuous to pretend that there is a 0% chance of this coworker being anti-Jerry. A refusal to show support for the marginalized as well as belonging to a group that has historically been part of their marginalization paints a somewhat clear picture of a person passively being on the side of the oppressor. It's totally fair for this coworker not to want to decorate their office to support Jerry, but I think it's also fair for their coworkers to see this as passive support for a desire to return to times before. That's a really good analogy, and I think you're right that there is 0% chance that OP isn't homophobic. I would however qualify that by saying that as long as OP's behavior is respectful and tolerant, I could accept his dislike of decoration. I know, for example, there are several homophobic people in our local church who would express their private reservations, but publicly support inclusivity on the grounds of fairness. It's not a balancing act I personally would be happy with, but as long as they behave properly I would cut them some slack and hope for better in the future. Now it's time for the update, to see how this all played out. Update: am I the asshole for writing my colleague up and making her lose her privacy? As per the institution policies, my coworker launched an appeal and a tribunal was called. Before the tribunal, I had to have a meeting with ours and the headmaster in order to brief them of the charges against her and explain my rationale behind my actions. Following the meeting, the tribunal was called, and during the time I had to serve as a prosecutor on the council. Due to this, I lost my ability to vote and had to appoint someone else to represent myself on the council. My representative was the system administrator for the science department. Following this session, it took the council a week to come to a decision. The council took my side and decided to pursue 2 additional charges against her. The first was her violating the right to freedom of association and the second was that her behavior violated the staff conduct policy. The tribunal came to this decision based on these determinations. 1. I was exercising my right to freedom of association by not participating in the Spirit Month theme. 2. By sending me material that can be deemed as sinful and trying to force me to change my religious beliefs. She was violating my rights to freedom of religion. 3. My actions were deemed appropriate and proportional to the situation and nature of the violation. Following these rulings, the tribunal decided on these punishments in response to her actions. Firstly, she is to be placed on administrative leave for 2 weeks. During this time she is to write a formal apology to myself and the institution for her actions. Secondly, her correspondences are to be more closely monitored for the next 6 months. Lastly, if she is found to be in violation of any more institution policies she is at risk of termination. When it comes to my employment, I received a raise. Supposedly I have been under consideration for a while, but this situation has pushed them over the edge. The administration strongly supports my quality of service and professionalism. My relations with my colleagues have stayed the same for the most part. I have been getting passive aggression and rudeness from 2 colleagues, but I ignore it. I would like to thank all those who have commented on my original post and voted. All your comments and votes really helped me realize that my actions were justified and that I should not be afraid to stand up for myself and my beliefs. And now on to the next story. Am I the asshole for yelling at my best friend, 18F, when she threw away my 18F anxiety medication? I, 18F, and my lifelong best friend, Emily, 18F, share a dorm at college. For backstory, I started having really bad panic attacks when I was 10 after my parents died. My brother, Dylan, 32 meters, took me to a psychiatrist and I was diagnosed with GAD and put on Prozac. I have taken it ever since and I have occasional panic attacks, but it's been a lifesaver. Emily has stood by me through all of it, but she never liked the medication. She was raised extremely Christian, as opposed to my agnostic upbringing, and thinks I just need to repent and ask God's forgiveness. Now, I'm pretty good at just ignoring that, since I trust my therapist and doctor. However, since we've gotten to college, she has been looking at me weird and making snide remarks every morning when I take my medication. She has asked me not to take it in front of her, and I try to do it when she's in the bathroom, but she insists that she can hear the pills rattling. It has caused tension, but I never thought she would do what she did. Thursday afternoon, I was feeling restless and went into the city with my girlfriend, Eva, 18F. Emily thinks we are just friends. We had a great time, but Emily kept texting and calling, even when I insisted everything was okay. I'm usually okay with her being so overprotective because of an incident when I was 14, but I just wanted to be with Eva, so I told her I'd call if anything happened and turned off my phone. A couple hours later, I got back to the dorm and Emily screamed at me for having my phone off and threatened to call my brother and Sil. I apologized because I didn't want her to call and worry them. She accused me of not having morals anymore, and I just didn't say anything and went to bed. Friday morning, I was getting ready and found that all my pills were missing. I asked her about it, and she said you don't need drugs, you need to pray, and said she had flushed them. I lost my temper and told her that I need my medication to function properly and that she had no right to do that. I had to go all day without it and was a complete disaster. I had to step out of a chemistry lab because I felt so bad. It was about time to replace the prescription anyway, so I did that, and I'm hiding it in my backpack. However, Emily is demanding an apology for how I yelled at her, and her boyfriend agrees with her completely. Eva, Dylan, Sil, and our other friends think I'm completely right and should be angrier. I don't know. We've been friends for so long. I feel like if I don't apologize it'll all be over and the rest of freshman year will be so awkward. I know she'll hold a grudge for a while. I shouldn't have shut off my phone, but she knew where I was. She has my Snap Map location and that I wasn't alone. I just want it all to blow over. This whole Saturday has been tense and weird. TLDR. My extremely religious best friend and college roommate flushed my anxiety medication down the toilet after I turned off my phone while hanging out with my GF. Edit. BTW for everyone who thinks I'm not going to report this. It's the middle of the night and I'm staying at a friend's apartment. I'm going to report it ASAP, but I'm going to take at least tonight to be around people who aren't like that. Otherwise, thank you for all the kind words. 3. Another edit. I know this isn't the norm for Christianity. Most Christians I know would never do what she did. Going off Prozac and most SSRs shouldn't be done like that. You need to be weaned off of them. AITA needs to get replacements. The friend is highly confused and she needs to get her opinions under control. If I were op I'd talk to the rep and ask for a new room. Right now. When she finds out, and she will find out, that the op is dating a female woo. Catty bar the damn door. Jesus is on his way to the house to kick it down. Regarding the medication, in addition to hiding it in the backpack, I would put it in an empty pack of icebreakers rather than in the usual pill bottle. AITA, in my jurisdiction, the rule against transferring medications to unmarked/different containers applies to controlled substances, not all prescription medications. Note that not all prescription medications are controlled substances. Opiate-based pain relief medications are one example of a controlled substance. I'd toss her Bible in the trash, a few blocks from the dorm as well. I don't see how it will do any good just because of the poor spider who lives on the book. Spiders are nice creatures and they help rid the house of fleas, lice, mosquitoes and flies, and I don't see how ruining this spider's house accomplishes anything. This can actually be considered illegal. Generally prescription meds must be stored and transported in packaging with their labels. She shouldn't have to anyway. It's a felony to steal someone's medication and dispose of it. The roommate should be arrested and expelled, or removed from the dorm room at the very least. She could have destroyed OP's entire semester if OP needed a new doctor's visit before she could get a refill. Plus the lunatic still has no self-awareness and is demanding an apology for flushing her medications. And let's not pretend that the friend just did this out of the blue after OP having the medications all these years. She was punishing OP just for turning off her phone for a couple of hours. Imagine what the roommate would do if she discovers the truth about OP's girlfriend. OP is definitely not safe and needs to report this as soon as possible to the police and to the school. Edit. I'm actively worried about OP. This Prozac is a controlled substance. I would report it as missing and that my roommate admitted to stealing it. She needs new living arrangements as soon as possible, but she sounds codependent on her friend, probably due to the death of her parents at a young age and her brother being 14 years older. Not the asshole OP. But get away from the toxic environment. Prozac actually isn't a controlled substance, but it's still a prescribed medication and still a felony. Yeah, I really hope OP reports her roommate to the appropriate authorities. Emily needs a reality check very badly. However, OP should be prepared for Emily's behavior to escalate and have a plan in place to deal with it. I honestly think OP should move dorm rooms regardless of what happens next, so that Emily won't know where she lives anymore. Frankly, I think the religious objection to the Prozac is largely bullshit and Emily just wants OP vulnerable and therefore controllable. But even if that's not the case, Emily has no right to do what she did, and she's clearly not a safe person for OP to have in her life, let alone her living space. Let's move on to the update to see how this situation was resolved. Update. Am I the asshole for yelling at my friend who flushed my anxiety medication? So, after my last post, I requested a room change and reported her to campus police. Emily was put on academic probation, and I moved to a new room. My new roommate could not care less and is clean, so it's a win. Over Christmas break, I came out to my brother and Sil, supportive, and cut contact with Emily. My brother and Sil agreed to do the same. She yelled at me, but I was too done with her to care, and besides a few stares, she hasn't said a word. I've learned a lot about myself in these past few months. I found out that the friends I've had for a few months already are more supportive than she was. Eva and I even told them about our relationship, and they were actually happy, which surprised me. I'm not sure why. Honestly, I feel like I stepped out of a fog. I didn't know I could be happy or feel okay. I didn't realize how much it hurt to try and live my life, to not get preached at. Thank you to all the people who left sweet words and sent messages. I probably would have just let everything go back to normal otherwise, and nobody wants that. That's it for today. Thank you for joining us. What were your thoughts on today's stories? Be sure to leave them in the comments below, and be sure to like and subscribe, as it really helps this channel grow.